Hi. Uh, Ann Charles here. Whew, wake up. Anyway, behind the scenes with Ann, we're going to talk today about Life at the Coffin Joint, this beautiful book. This is the first book in the Deadwood Undertaker series. And let's see, I'm going to try a couple things here with this new program I have. Ta-da! I hope you can see that. Fancy Life at the Coffin Joint. And by the end of today, we'll pick a name and someone is going to win this mug. Here's the backside of it. It's pretty cool, huh? That is thanks to Mark and Michelle Davis, who are going to be shipping that out. So they will be drawing. Michelle, I think you're going to send me a message with the name. Sorry, it's been a while. It's been since when? When did we do this last? Early June? Since then, whew, so much has happened. Deadwood came out, Deadwood 11, and I got a mic. I'm hoping this helps. My wonderful stepmother said that I slurred a little on the other mic. So I said, maybe I'm drunk, maybe I'm not. I got a microphone to see if this helps. So I hope you can hear me better. I'm going to go over to comments and watch them here too. Yes. And by the way, okay, so Mr. Lucky's shirt, I thought since we're doing Ann and Mr. Lucky today, Sam Lucky, I would dress like Mr. Lucky, but be Ann. So I've got Mr. Lucky's hat. This actually, if I stand up because I'm so short, I kind of tip over. So I have to sit still because I just don't have the height to handle this. I should have put some shoulder pads in, and then I could talk with a deep voice too. Stable internet connection. I think I'm unstable. So if I go in and out, we're having that kind of a day here. Anyway, let's get started. Thank you all for coming and joining me today as we talk about Life at the Coffin Joint. So we can start with some questions. If any of you have questions, I can read them from the screen, or my sister Wendy is helping me out and she'll send me stuff. I feel like it's been a long time since I've done this. But anyway, I'm going to read the back cover of the book and we'll get started with that. And then I have a couple questions. Barbara West Guy couldn't be here today, but she sent me questions in advance. So we'll start with those. And then if you guys have any questions, you can send them to me and we'll go from there. So a new executioner is in town. Hopefully most of you guys have read this by now, so I don't give you any spoilers. If I do, plug your ears. If you start to hear something, spoil it. Anyway, Deadwood, late 1876, a rowdy and reckless undertaker's delight. What a better place for a killer to blend in. Do-do-do. Enter Undertaker Clementine Johansson, tall and deadly with a hot temper and short fuse, hired to clean up Deadwood's dead and the other problem. She's hell-bent on poking, sticking, or stabbing anyone that steps out of line. But when a couple of Santa Fe sidewinders ride into town searching for their missing uncle, they land neck deep in lethal gunplay, nasty cutthroats, and endless stinking snow. Their search leads them to throw in with Clementine to hunt for a common enemy. What they find chills them all to the bone and sends them on an adventure they'll never forget. From USA Today best-selling, multiple award-winning humorous Deadwood mystery series, that is a mouthful, comes a new herd of tales set in the same Deadwood stomping grounds, only back in the day when the old West Town was young. So that is the back cover copy of the book. Now let's go back in time to how this all got started, the Undertaker series. And Mr. Lucky can chime in if I don't remember things quite right. I kind of have a memory like Homer Simpson. I don't know if you guys watch The Simpsons, but whenever Homer remembers the past, it's a totally different fictional thing than what actually happened. And I think that's kind of what happens with me. So years ago, Sam Lucky and I were watching a documentary on undertakers in the Old West. It was some show. I can't remember what. And they were in particular going on about an undertaker that happened. And when it finished, I remember thinking, I don't think I've ever heard of a female undertaker. And he said, and I asked him, and he agreed he had not heard of a female undertaker either in the Old West and all the stories and things we'd seen and read. So we started talking about what this female undertaker would be like, and what putting her in Deadwood, and the whole idea came to life of Clementine being in Deadwood, being similar to Violet in her role to take care of the other problem, and how things would be for Clementine, what could happen. And for years and years, Mr. Lucky has talked about these two gunslinger ghosts he always thought would be really humorous to have in a story. And they would be best of friends, but gunslingers sometimes aiming at each other, maybe as ghosts or not. So that was kind of, I believe, and Mr. Lucky can correct me if I'm wrong, that was kind of the birth of Rabbit and Boon, the whole idea of these two guys that were so close, yet always kind of going back and forth at each other. So that's how we started with Clementine, the undertaker, and Boon and Rabbit. And then Hank came along as well. And without ruining Hank's role in the series, just definitely stay tuned, because there's Hank yet that we're going to discover as the books keep going. So that's kind of in a nutshell how this all began with the Deadwood Undertaker series. And we wanted to go back in time and show those of you who read the Deadwood Mystery series what happened back in the 1870s, before Violet and all the stuff she's dealing with. What happened back then? Because I knew from when I was prepping for the Deadwood Mystery series that a lot of stuff had happened in the past, but there was no real way for me to tell you that without going into a long backstory by one character, and that would kind of ruin the pacing for Violet stuff. And I could have done a short story kind of in the Deadwood shorts, but there was way too much to tell. And so this seemed like a great vehicle to let you guys learn all about the past and what had happened in Deadwood, and some of the characters that we know that are still in the present. For example, in this first book, we meet Masterson, and most of you all know who Masterson is from the current series, right? So we meet him only in the past, and a few other of the more supernatural characters that live longer than regular humans. So that all being said, let me pause and see if I can answer a couple of questions for you guys. I feel like my mouth is new today. Maybe it's Mr. Lucky's mouth because I'm dressed like him and it's making me talk funny. I don't know, but I feel like I'm stumbling, and I really haven't even started drinking yet. I swear. I've only had coffee. So Mary Joyce Avery, you would make great garden art. Thank you. I could be one of those little gnomes, only a cowgirl gnome, big cowboy. How did Clementine end up in Deadwood? That is a question, and I'm not sure who asked this. With this new streaming thing I have, I can only see questions for the most part, not many names, just a few. So how did Clementine end up in Deadwood? I want to make sure I don't screw up what's in the story. If you read, she was contracted by Masterson to come in and clean up the mess. Now, we have not gone into detail yet about how he got a hold of her and how this all came about, but you can be sure that in the other world that there are ways to hire executioners, if you will, or hire other kinds of killers too. And bring them in for a job. So that's kind of where Clementine comes into the story. She, as we all know, is for Violet's world, we call it a Scharfrichter. In Clementine's world, they called her Slayer growing up. And there's other names they use for them as well. But she is an executioner. So she takes out the garbage just like Violet does. So that was kind of, there's a contract deal with Masterson, and in time, we will flesh that out more for you. But for now, in short, that's how she got there. Let's see, why did Rabbit and Boon go to Deadwood? So that's easy. because that's in book 1. And if you read, they were down in, Sam, lucky I could use your brain. They were down somewhere in Wyoming. Was it Cheyenne? And they were taking a load, and their uncle was supposed to they were supposed to meet up with their Uncle Mort, and he was waiting down there for him, but they had to go do a couple extra days of taking care of this freight run. And so Uncle Mort decided, hey, I want to go check out Deadwood and see what it's like as a future stop for what we're doing, or maybe building a business or something there. And so Uncle Mort went up. And so they came back early from the freight run they did, and he was gone. And they thought, well, we'll follow him up to Deadwood and see if we can run into him and find him and check out Deadwood too. So that's mainly, though, they're there to find Uncle Mort, their uncle, and hook up with him and bring him back. Where is Hank from? Oh, that's a really good question. Where is Hank from? Hank is a mystery on his own. He has been all over the place. So I can't tell you where he's from at this time because I don't want to ruin anything. But Hank kind of is like a tumbleweed in my mind. He drifts along with the wind. He spent some time in Nevada, we know, and knows a few people that are in Deadwood as well. And he's also spent time working on the railroad, which he talks about, helping with I think he was with the last spike or promontory, was it Utah? So he spent time working on the railroad too. And that's how he knows he's at ease with some of the Chinese, the Badlands in Deadwood, because he can go, he's been around them. He learned some of their language while he was working on the railroad with them. And he's just much more comfortable. Plus their view of Clementine, an undertaker, she is unclean. And so she's not really accepted down in that area of Deadwood, in Chinatown, the Badlands, that area. So that's where's Hank from. Susan. Hi, Susan. I went to school with Susan. Long time ago. Is Clementine a descendant of violets? That is a good question, but here's a clue about them. Clementine, as we know from the story, was raised by her grandparents, and she comes down the lines of her ancestors are Viking. So she tends to run more Scandinavian, I believe, whereas Violet's line come from the Black Forest region in Germany, and they are Germans. So I know that there were, that's kind of a blending way back in time, but in this case, they are two different lines of killers coming through. And we know, those of you who have read the Deadwood series, the contemporary one, that Prudence is also has the same role as Violet and Clementine. So Prudence was yet another line of killers, sharpshooters, slayers, whatever you want to call them. So we're seeing 3 different lines come through. Let's see. Another question. How do 2 people write together? How do 2 people? Well, when we hold the pencil, I'm kidding. It's an adventure. Every book has been a learning adventure for me. I can't speak for Mr. Lucky. He might tell you it's like extreme torture. What we do is we brainstorm first. First and foremost, we put together a loose structure, an outline, if you will, high level plot outline of what's going to happen in the book. And then we go and we start with chapter by chapter, and we start breaking it down and getting a little bit more detailed based on what we're trying to accomplish in each story and what the story goal is, or the story question, the theme, the premise. We have a whiteboard in Mr. Lucky's office. We also have this white thing on the wall that you can write on and erase. And ironically, the one on the wall has book 1, the one on the floor, the whiteboard, has book 2. So book 3 we did on just paper. So we do the scene and sequel for each chapter together, just kind of sitting at breakfast, drinking coffee. We'll do that. And then Mr. Lucky will go in and he'll start, and he will write out what we talked about, and then some, put all kinds of amazing stories and tidbits in it, and description. He is the one that has done so much research on the West, the Old West, Deadwood. He's read bunches of books about that area, the history, about mining. Throughout the time he's writing, you can go into his office at any time, and he'll have he has many monitors. I have one measly monitor. No, wait, I now have two, but I have had one measly monitor for a long time. He has like a bank of monitors. And he'll have up on one of his screens some research thing that he's reading up on, whether it be on types of wagons, guns, all the different kinds of guns they carried, knives, clothing, vernacular of the Old West, what was going on, mining, and where they were at in Deadwood at the time. So he will be doing tons of research as he gets going on that, as he puts that first draft down on the page. So we kind of think of it as building a house together. We come up with the plans together, and then he takes those plans and he builds the foundation, and he builds the walls, and he builds the whole thing. And then I come in when he's done with the chapter. He's usually way ahead of me. And I come in, and then I start, maybe I'll add some paint to this wall, or add some flavor, like about some particular part of history over on this. So I'm fortunate in that I don't really look at the blank page with the blinking cursor on this series. He does that part, breaking the ice, which is always really hard. I get to come in, and anything that spurs mine as I go read through what he already has that I can add, I can do and put on the page, which is really fun. It's great for me. And I tend to enjoy, as well as him, reading about the Vikings and seeing how we can incorporate more of that into Clem, her personality, her character, and her history. So that's a really long answer to that. But then when I'm done, we'll go through it together. We'll sit there together with me reading off my computer and him reading off his. And one of us will read as the other goes through and makes changes that we discuss. And we go through the whole book that way. And then when we're finished with that, then it's ready to go to the editor to do her part. And to first draft, the whole time, I guess I forgot to mention this, first draft crew is reading chapter by chapter, sometimes at a time. Like this run, we were sending several at a time a lot of times for book 3, but they'll read in bunches and get back to us with any thoughts, feedback. And each first draft person has their own thing they kind of do to help out. They have different roles to help us. So that's kind of how it all works together. Excuse me. Let's see if I have another question here. I got a little bit behind. Melissa Hogan, that was her question. This is another. Are there any mostly Sam Lucky creations versus Ann Charles? Yes, very much so. There are several scenes that are Sam Lucky, and there's a few scenes that are Ann Charles coming up with a little backstory or some side stuff. But a lot of, for example, Hank's stories, I wish I could write a character like Hank, but Hank's stories are Mr. Lucky. He will entertain me. I'll be reading laughing as I read what he wrote for Hank. So it's always really fun, especially I think in the first one is the story about the dog that would work on the railroad with them when Hank worked on the railroad, and it would run, it would ride the rails away for a while, and then it would come back. And I think it actually rode on top of a stallion and got the stallion to eventually put up with it. So yeah, those are a lot of that. A lot of Boon and Rabbit is Mr. Lucky. Rabbit's sense of humor, their voices, those are Mr. Lucky. He really has those guys down. I just kind of read through and chuckle. And maybe sometimes if I like to put clothes on people, it's one of the things I like to add, little weird details like that. So yeah, if you read this, there are several characters that are more, one personality than the other. And then when we read together, that's where we kind of will mesh our voices even more. What I like about writing the series with him is sometimes when two people write a series, books together, one will tell one chapter and then the next chapter is written by the next one and so forth. And while that's a really cool way to write too, that gives a really different feel, I think, than the two of us, the way we blend our voices and make it so you can, it's like a new voice kind of together with echoes of our own voices in there. Another question, Tara. Hi, Tara. Is Rabbit gifted? In many ways. You can just ask some of the local ladies. No, seriously, is Rabbit gifted? He, as you will find out more and more, I don't want to ruin for those. I hope many of you have read book 2, but yes, as we know from book 1 at the end, Uncle Mort has reached out to Rabbit, and he can, he appears to him. So Rabbit has something that Boon doesn't when it comes to being able to see ghosts, at least with his uncle. That's as much as I can tell you about Rabbit. He's also very gifted as with his guns. We all know he likes to shoot first, Mr. Quick Draw, and in many other ways. He's always fun. Let's see. Dawn Black. Hi. Is Hank a long living one? That's a good question. He really does seem to have a bunch of stories from his past. He's got a lengthy history. And I believe at one point we talk about him being in his early 40s, which is pretty old back then, for a lot of these guys to have done as much and not be just gnarled up by that age. But you're going to have to stay tuned, Dawn, because I don't want to give any away, but there is a lot to Hank, as well as his ability to shoot that bow and arrow, man. He's amazing with his bow and arrow skills. Let's see. Why did the White Grizzly focus on attacking Boon and not Rabbit? That's another question from Tara. That's a good question. Why did he focus on Boon? I'm trying to picture that scene. I wonder if there was a reason that maybe Boon was in a more vulnerable position. I think it was going for both of them. I believe, unless Mr. Lucky contradicts me and comes in and says differently, I believe it would have taken either one of them, but it did go for Boon first. We'll see if I'm right on that, if I hear anything from him. Does Mr. Lucky talk in Old West language regularly? I'm not sure who asked that question. That's a good question. That's funny. I know, because if you read Hank's dialogue, especially, and Rabbit, man, the things that he says, I always feel like when I read through some of his dialogue, I just sit there and scratch my head thinking, how does he do that? How does he pull, sounding like some of the characters in old movies that we've seen, with the Reckons and, all the things Hank says? It just cracks me up. We've watched a lot of Westerns in our town. We both like to watch Westerns like on MeTV and Grit. We'll sit there with that on during the day a lot of times and just let, the dialogue and all those roll through. We've done that for years and years. So I think he soaks it up. And sometimes we'll get joking about it. And he'll just kind of spew out several things. And I'm like, where did you even come up with that? He's really amazing. I couldn't write, there's no way I could write this series on my own. There's just too much research. There's so much that goes into it, and so much that Mr. Lucky brings to the table that makes the series what it is. It's a lot of fun. Okay, let's see. Another question. Mary Avery, where does the rogue get her arrogance? Oh, the rogue. I'm trying to think in the coffin joint how much we talk about the rogue. The rogue executioner, I know Hildegard and Mrs. Hunt mentioned that. And for those of you, on a little side note, we're getting Mrs. Hunt. Did you catch where she says she's thinking of changing her name? And I believe it's in this book where she says she's going to change it to Miss Wolf. And for those of you who have read the Deadwood contemporary series, I'm sure you know who Miss Wolf is, right? It's in book 5 in particular when she starts out the story giving Violet a call. So anyway, that's just a fun connection between the two. But Miss Hunt and Hildegard talk about the rogue executioner that's in town. As for where she does, and I don't want to ruin, I don't want to go into more detail yet on who the rogue is, besides being a rogue. I can tell you this, she is amazing at her job. She is one of the best executioners around. She can walk the walk as much as, if not maybe more than Clementine, when it comes to being a slayer, because Clementine has more emotion, morals. She has limits. She doesn't think of the humans as just, cattle or anything like that. She thinks as humans as maybe they're redeemable. Whereas the rogue is just going to kill because she's going to take care of the problem, straight, plain and simple. So she gets her arrogance because she's really good at what she does and knows it. So she's a lot of fun because of that, because she is so cocky. Let me see. Melissa Phillips. Hi, Melissa. Will we see more crossover from modern day Deadwood with the Old West Deadwood? People, places, stories. Yes. As we continue on, you will continue to, especially with the supernatural beings, because of course they do not age like humans. So you're going to be able to take the modern Deadwood series and the Undertaker series, and like Miss Hoot, who is Miss Wolf, you're going to be able to find more and more of those on who is who in the past and who they are in the present day Deadwood. We also know Masterson, who is in book 1, is the same Masterson who's Violet has to deal with, is Dominic. So we've already got those 2 different characters established the tie through. And for those of you, we do mention Hildegard's last name is Zuckerman. And if you've read the current Deadwood series, Mrs. Zuckerman is talked about. She was a really good friend of Miss Wolf's. So you can see that there's already similarities. So now the fun, in my opinion, is for you guys. Well, one of the fun parts is figuring out who in the modern day Deadwood is who in the past Deadwood, in the Old West version of Deadwood, which is kind of fun because we keep that all in mind, and we leave little hints and put little things out there all the time to try and make it more fun for you guys. So it's like a fun puzzle you get to read. Let me see what else we got. That was Melissa. People, places. Christina Wynn. What was your motivation to write essentially a prequel to the Deadwood series? And I talked about that a little bit earlier, Christina, but I'll say it again, and maybe I'll be clear because I'm rusty at the start always of these things. So motivation. I knew there was stuff that happened in the past. For example, we know from Prudence in the modern day series that stuff happened in the past. I mean, she was killed in Deadwood in the past. So we know from that stuff had already happened back in the old version. We also know from Doc getting into Prudence's head a couple times and seeing her memories, we know stuff had happened. And we know from different ghosts that Doc has dealt with that things had happened in the Old West regarding this whole other business and supernatural stuff. So, and there's the old tattoo. I mean, early on, I think it's in book 2 of the Deadwood series, we've got that goat pig tattoo thing going on, and Doc has seen it in a memory of Prudence's, I believe, the potato sacks over their heads, the guys that took her out, and cut holes for eyes and this tattoo. So I really wanted to be able to bring that past to life and show you so much more of what had happened before in a really fun time in Deadwood. I mean, the Old West, when you go to Deadwood, the modern day real place, so much of Deadwood's appeal to people is the history. You can go into the old Adams house, which was built in the late 1800s. You can now go into one of the brothels. They have a museum for that. They have so many museums. They have the mines. They have all kinds of history stuff that they still do a shootout of Wild Bill, or the guy shot Wild Bill and then chasing him down in the street, I think every day at like 5 o'clock or something like that, or maybe multiple times. So I wanted to be able to bring all that to life for everybody and kind of feel like what it was like back then. And then you can see it would make, I think, the modern day Deadwood story even more richer than without knowing what happened in the past. So that kind of answers that. Heather. Hi, Heather. Traguloff. I think I said that right again. Do you do the supernatural scenes, or does Sam get into the spooky stuff? We both do it. Sam loves that kind of stuff too. He always has. So we both dabble in the supernatural fun stuff in the Old West, in the Undertaker series, and have fun with that. Sam Lucky is the one, though, for those of you who have read it, the whole where Clementine does her work, where she sticks things in bodies and, checks for bullets and all the kind of things she does, he does that kind of detail. He might enjoy it because he really gets in, good details about her Undertaker work. And it makes me squirm a little bit when I go through it. Some of that stuff, it's funny. He does amazing stuff with that. Elena, hi. Can you tell us if we have met Harvey's grandpappy in the series? I have an idea, but I'm not saying any names. No, I don't believe we have. If we have, he hasn't been named on screen. I will tell you that. So, not saying that grandpappy won't come into play eventually, but at this point, I will say that we have not met that man in particular. Mr. Lucky, wear Old West clothes and a hat while writing. Did you hear that, Mr. Lucky? Wherever you are, do you wear an Old West clothes and a hat while you're writing? I think he sometimes wears a hat. Trying to think when I go in his office what I see. I usually race in and out because I don't want to disturb him while he's in the midst of the story because I want him to keep going. So I try to stay away from him while he's in the thick of writing. We will see if I can. I don't know if he's listening or not. I think he's listening in his office right now. Tara, will we see more of Mr. Billwitty? I suspect he is an ancestor of Harvey. Oh, that's an interesting idea. We probably will bring Billwitty back. We talked about him enough, gave him a name, so there's a good chance he'll come back. I believe he's a freighter, right? He was the one that got the wagon, or did he not get the wagon? He lost it in the card game. I'm trying to remember how that worked. But I believe he will be back for more. Good old Mr. Billwitty. Heather, could Rabbit and Boon have had run-ins with supernaturals in the South? Skinwalkers or other creatures that have prepared them for Deadwood? Oh, that's a good question, too. They certainly have traveled and been all over the place. If you were to follow all their trails and all the freight runs they've done, they've gone south to Mexico, they've gone west, they've gone east. Anyone, if you've ever studied Santa Fe and the Cimarron Trail and all those trails down there and what was going on down in Santa Fe area, New Mexico, there was so many people, so much commerce going on down there. It was really a major area for so long where stuff came up from Mexico City up to Santa Fe, and then it went east or west. Stuff came from the Mississippi River, I believe, and came west to Santa Fe. So it was really a major trading route for a long time. And we have done both the Cimarron Trail and what's the other trail? I can't think of it right now. The Cimarron was one where it was really dangerous because it got really dry. A lot of times they didn't follow a river, but it was a little bit shorter. So you think you're in a hurry, we'll just take the shorter trail, but it was drier and much dangerous if you couldn't find the water holes. And we read accounts when we were traveling through Kansas and doing this along the trail where some woman wrote that they were drinking water they would never even think to wash with. I mean, it was just so disgusting, but that was all they had to drink. A lot of people died going the Cimarron route because it got too dry. They didn't have anything to drink. The watering holes had dried up. So you really had to pick and choose which route was best. If you ever get down New Mexico, it's Oklahoma Panhandle area to Kansas and all that, it's Dodge City. You can actually see the wagon ruts a slight ways west of Dodge. They're still there in the ground. You can see them off into the distance heading out west on the trail they used to take. So it's kind of neat to go see and just learn a bit more about what that was like. But once the railroads came in, that kind of faded because they didn't, need to move freight by the wagon trains as much anymore. They took them by train. So it kind of killed the whole industry, which is the freighter industry, which is what Boon and Rabbit are dealing with. What they did for so long is drying up, and they have to think about what to do next. That was a really long answer to a question. I hope I answered you. Heather, did I answer that? I don't know. They could have. We will see as time goes on what they have experienced more. But they have not experienced a white grizzly. Mr. Lucky is next to me. Do you wear Old West clothing when hat and Western stuff when you write?
Absolutely.
He says absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see what else. Where was the Pyre located in Deadwood, as in where would it be today? Do you have an answer to that? Do you know where it would be today? What would be there? Like Pam's Purple Door, the Bullock? Was it down near the Bullock, across from the Bullock Hotel? Do you not? Are you thinking? He's thinking. We'll let him think on that for a minute, where it would be today, for those of you who know Deadwood. In the meantime, I'll answer another one while he's getting over here. Are we going to see the ancestors of Ray or Rex or other assholes? Probably not those two. Wow, it's probably not those two, but we will see ancestors of some others, but not. I got to figure out how to do this. It's mirror. So we'll see some ancestors, but not of Ray. He's just too.
Hi, little Philly.
Hello.
You're pretty.
So answer the question, because now you've made me blush.
What's that? What are we doing?
Where was the Pyre located in Deadwood, as in where would it be today?
You know, it was on Main Street on the east side, but I don't know that we've ever placed it on a current building.
No, I know we have all those different.
The problem is if you get too specific, then people will go check, and then you're in trouble because they say, no, it couldn't be there. So you got to get a little bit vague about stuff like that.
So we're a little vague about that. There's several things. Plus, we do have bunches of saloons that we talk about, but there were bunches of saloons back then, weren't there?
Mm-hmm.
There were, I got cat hair in my mouth, all kinds of up and down the street. What other stuff was in town back then? They had livery, saloons, some cafes, hotels. Most of it was still tents, right?
Tents? Well, yeah. In 1876, it was still mostly... they had some log structures with tent or canvas roofs, and then they started building real buildings right about then too, because those people were industrious. So, but a lot of them were still tents because they were working on pulling gold from the ground. So, wasn't
it right along Main Street? Weren't they even? There were claims right there close to Main Street.
Yeah, you can see images of people actually working Main Street, which is crazy. So
yeah, that's what I was thinking. They actually had stuff right there. And something that he read in one of the many history volumes that I thought was interesting is Wyatt Earp was up there.
Yeah.
At one time.
He hauled wood. For a winter, through the winter of 75, 76, I think. Made some money doing that, and then he headed south. Yeah, so getting wood was actually, I mean, that was important, because if you look at old pictures of Deadwood way back when they were there, when all this was going on, they were just, you know, there used to be all these pine trees, and then they just started cutting them down because they were using them in the mines to hold up the, you know, structures in the mines. They used them to build the buildings. They were using them for firewood to heat. So when I was a kid and I would walk through the Adams Museum in Deadwood, I would notice that a lot of these old pictures from way back then had like bare hillsides and just a few, you know, like a few trunks still up. And I always thought, wow, I wonder how that worked, why there were so much openness and where all the trees were. And did they later come in? How did that? I couldn't figure out how it happened that it was so cleared out until I realized that they had cut everything down and they had used it. So they'd stripped the forest. And then what I couldn't really see in the pictures was probably the little saplings that were coming up. Because when you go to the Black Hills now, pine trees all over the place amongst other trees. So it has all come back, except for the fires that have gone through more recently, have taken them out again. And that, I don't know, probably happened back then. In addition to Deadwood burning multiple times, I'm sure they had lots of problems. So that was one of the questions. There was another question I can't remember. I'm trying to think that was for you. I'm getting tequila for you.
It's right here. I got a whole bottle. And then I brought a cup. See the cup I was going to use for. It's the cup, I think. Isn't it, Mark and Michelle? They sent us one. So I was just going to pour tequila in this cup because it's this kind of a day. I went down to my brother's this morning, get some books autographed, including one that I'm going to give away. We're going to give away today. And by the way, Wendy, Sister Wendy, who's helping me behind the scenes, will you later on draw a name from the random list for me to send this to an autograph copy? Anyway, we get partway down there, and there's a sign over the freeway that says the exit right before his exit. The freeway's closed. And I thought, you mean the exit's closed? And I kept going, and traffic started snarling. And No, they shut the whole freeway down. Major freeway, 4 lanes. They just closed it and put everybody off on a side exit. So there was a lot of swearing involved, a lot of bad driving, not by me. I was patient for the most part. But by the time I got to my brother's, I was a hot mess, literally, because it was getting really hot down there. And it took me a while to calm back down. And then I had to drive back up here because I knew I had this. My mom was in town visiting, so I took her down, and now she's with my brother. And they're having fun for the weekend. Well, I got back up here so I could drink this tequila. I don't know where Mr. Lucky went. Where did you go? You're supposed to be out here drinking with me. That's a lot of tequila. Probably shouldn't drink that much. I am halfway done, so I can do it. Let me turn this. Let's get a couple more questions going until you get back here. Are you coming back with something? Okay, good. Mr. Lucky's back. Oh, thank you, Elena. Love our hats. Eva from right here in Paulden, next door to me. I think that's who Eva might be. Do you ride horses together for research? No, not currently. We have both ridden horses in the past. We have both been bucked off horses in the past. Is that how you broke your arm? Mm-hmm. That's how he broke his arm when you were how old? 8. He broke his arm when he was 8, getting bucked off a horse. And you got right back on when your arm healed? No, you're supposed to get right back on. When I got bucked off, I didn't get a broken arm. I just landed on my tuchus. And I did get back on, even though I didn't want to, because I knew if I didn't, I'd probably never get back on a horse. So we've both done our own horse adventures. And I've done a lot of trail riding on vacations. That's kind of lame. But I always seem to get the horse that rides at the very edge of the cliff. The other horses are up against the wall, and I'm at the edge, and I just swear it's going to buck me off. Hey, come back here. Bring that hat back here. So we do. Eva Davis. Hi, Eva. You are right over here, not in Chino Valley. You're my neighbor. So other questions. There was, will there be a map of modern Deadwood versus old? Clem's place, Zoe's house. And that's, again, for Mr. Lucky, because Mr. Lucky makes the maps. Come over here and answer that.
Well, I don't have
I'm going to start drinking.
So do I have to come over if there's not an answer?
Mm-hmm.
There's no answer for that.
He changed his hat.
Yes, there will. No, there won't be. I don't know.
That's a lot of tequila.
So my hat's as big as hers. That's my hat.
It is his hat.
Neil, that's my hat.
We got it in New Mexico at a rest stop there. And we liked it so much that when we came back through on the way down, we got a second in case this hat got ripped apart or something. So is there an idea of how many you want to write in the Undertaker series?
Yes.
How many?
And it's not the same amount as her, so.
Don't make me laugh when I'm drinking tequila.
That's a problem.
I know. I always, me, I like to write long series. So he'll say a number and I will often double it. Mm-hmm. That's what we do. There was another question earlier for Mr. Lucky.
That goes for any conversation we have, by the way.
I double it. Here was one I wanted you to answer. Heather asked, could Rabbit and Boon have had run-ins with supernaturals in the South? Skinwalkers or other creatures that have prepared them for Deadwood.
Now we have discussed spin-offs with the characters, Rabbit and Boon, mm-hmm. and also Hank.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know, because Hank has so many stories that just pour out of him. For everything that's happened, he has a story. And so we thought it might be fun someday to write a short kind of novella with a bunch of Hanks in it, just to kind of have those out. And then same could be true of the boys, the guys, because they have done so many freight runs together. I mean, they're, by the time we start this story, they've been doing this. How long do you think they've been running freight from the time before they started this story?
Oh, years.
10 years?
I don't know.
10 years. Well, they've got to be
in
their late 20s, aren't they?
They're in their mid to late 20s. So, and they've been they helped Uncle Mort since they were able to drive a team. So
that's young. I mean, if you think about it, way back then.
Yeah. They're old men now.
Yeah. So
not really.
Will they be available soon? Someone asked these stories. Well, we're getting there. We're working on it. Can I tell them what we're working on next?
Yeah.
I think I've already said this to some of you guys. We're working on a Christmas novella for these guys. Probably about 30,000 words, which is the size of Fatal Traditions and like my circus series. So about that length, just to give you a feel. We have it brainstormed. We have it plotted, loosely plotted, and we talk about it a lot. So it's getting there, and we have to get it done in the next month, right? Yes.
What?
Which means somebody has to write it in the next month, get going. So yes, he's going to be working on that as I get started, as I get back to working on Deadwood 12. And then I'll take a break and work on the Christmas novella with him when it's my turn. So we do have that. I would read novellas for all of these guys from Tara. Oh, cool, Tara. Thank you. Coffin Joint Shorts, Deborah Ritchie. That's right. Coffin Joint Shorts. I like the sound of that. I mean, we could have so many stories. Yeah, there's even like Hildegard and Ludic, those two. I mean, they've had so many adventures too. All these guys.
Ludic's fun.
Yeah, Ludic is a lot of fun.
Ludic's going to get fun.
As you guys keep going. Book 3 is now with the beta crew. So the goal is September 28th, my stepmom's birthday. We hope to have it by then. We're probably going to do a pre-order. Yes, we're going to have a pre-order up soon. And you'll know when you see the cover all over the place. We have the cover done. So when you see that cover on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere else, you'll know that it's available for pre-order. You can go pre-order. For those of you who like to do that. I'm no good at pre-order because I'm too excited and then I can't wait and it drives me crazy. But it will be out there for those of you who like the pre-order option. And we will try to have the printout shortly thereafter or around the same time.
Close.
Somebody he does the formatting for all this stuff. So he knows more than I do what will be. Mary Joyce, I see this question come up. And it says, for Mary Avery, nobody builds characters like you. How is it that Sam has built such relatable ones as you? I told you, these characters are his, man. He knows them inside and out. He's been thinking about them.
I'm going to tell you guys a little secret.
What?
I don't write anything. It's all her. But people thought it wasn't human how much she was writing. So she had to come up with me. She had this idea that I would be a co-writer with her, but it's really all her.
He lies. Here, have some drink. That'll make it
I know weird. Some of you suspected that.
No. Seriously. Babbitt and Boon, Hank, all of them. Mr. Lucky here.
That needs lemon.
It does need something. It's just straight up. Are you going to get me some lemon? Oh, good. He's getting me lemon because this is really... Oh, I keep drinking it too fast. But Mr. Lucky is just the stories that come out. I tell you, I can't tell you how many times I get to read it. So I get this story and I read through it and I'm just wowed by, especially like some of the stuff Hank says and does. Cracks me up. Hank is one of my favorites because I love the way he takes everything in stride. Thank you, Sandra. I hope all is well down under. And you're enjoying the winter, Miss Allen.
Sandra?
Yeah, Sandra's here. She said hello. Mr. Lucky says hello. Come back and visit us, Sandra. So somebody just got back from Deadwood. Nice. Cool. I wish I could go to that, but our kids are always in school in August. So one of these days we're going to go so we can see all the cars. Okay. I think we're back. We're back on my end. I hope you guys didn't have the dark too long. So Christina, we won the mug. Woohoo! All right. Good job. We will, Mark and Michelle, I need you to send me your address, Christina, so that I can send it on to Mark and Michelle and your mailing address so they can mail you the mug. And Miss Wendy, I also need a name for the print book. Actually, I think I have a name here. You already sent me. Let me look through here. Huh? I'm supposed to do it this way? He says I'm supposed to do it like this. Oh, that's my mouth burn. Oh, I got a steam. See, I don't like to do it that way. That's the way you do it. I like to just drink it. I like to have lemon and drink it. You get over here and do it that way. So, we have a print book. And again, I'm going to tell you why this is a giveaway. I'm going to be upfront and honest. I got this from the printer, and the corner is bent a little. So I don't want to sell it in my store. It's just a tiny enough bend, but I don't like to sell stuff in the Ann Charles store that has bends in it because I don't think that's fair to you guys. So this book goes to someone, and it's a special book. We're going to write something special in it to you. Not just, we'll have to sign it yet, but so you will get a bent corner book, and that's the way it's supposed to be. It's a very special book. And the winner for this one is Melissa Phillips. Yay, Melissa. I hope you don't have it. If you do, maybe you can share with your library or something like that. You guys always, a great way to get it out for other people is to share it with your library. And now I have lemon in my cut on my thumb. And that's why I didn't drink lemon. I wasn't going to have lemon with my tequila because I knew it would hurt. Whereas tequila straight up would be just smooth and happy stuff, right? Okay, so anyhow, other questions about this series. I don't know where you think you're going. You need to come back here, dear. Please. There is a question that I got earlier. I don't think I answered it. Did I answer this? Barbara, yes, I think I started with Barbara's questions. But what is your question, what is your answer, Mr. Lucky? Rabbit has dreams that let him see what is happening like Uncle Morton. Could this be comparable to Addie's dreams? What is your answer to that? You know all about Addie.
That's interesting because we don't know.
We don't know.
That's not interesting because we don't know. Yeah.
I think the tequila's getting to my head. I think I need some pizza. Let's see. What else? There was another. Is Harvey the descendant of Hank? And I think I already answered that. But I said no.
No, but you know who we might meet is Harvey's grandpappy.
Yeah, somebody asked that. And I said we hadn't met Harvey's grandpappy. We hadn't met Harvey's grandpappy yet. And that is true, right? Yet.
You always got to say yet.
Yet. So we will be meeting in the future. Okay, so that was the question. We answered that.
We're going to do.
Yeah.
This is hee-haw. Remember when they used to do the thing to the side?
What? Hee-haw? He's doing hee-haw for those of that.
Where, oh, where? You remember?
I'm drinking, and he's not even drinking, and he's singing hee-haw.
I'll catch you.
I always think of the way they'd pop up out of the cornfield and say jokes.
He's holding the pitchfork.
I'm supposed to say, Christina, win for the mug? I thought I already did that. Christina, win, you won the mug. Yay. I thought I did that, but I'm sorry if I didn't. I have drank a lot of the tequila that's in this cup that you're going to get.
That was a lot of tequila.
I know, and I haven't eaten since breakfast, before I went to Phoenix awesome. And came back.
I'm going to get lucky.
I can't believe you said
your
that.
arm off. This is my side.
Mr. Lucky. Anyhow, now I'm going to blush again. You're going to make me have the, I'm all.
That's a fake.
No, I really am. Tell us more about Chinatown. You tell us more about Chinatown.
It was the Badlands, basically. That's what I know is it basically the Badlands. It was at the northern end of town.
Yeah.
And that's all I know.
Come on, you know more about that.
That's about it.
You know what I learned last time we were in Deadwood this last summer? I was there. Unfortunately, Mr. Lucky wasn't with me. I took the kids down to Deadwood to pick up pictures we had. They're old time photos. We always do. And we stopped by one of the gift stores and they were talking. My daughter, Chicken Noodle, says, "Hey, Mom, there's something about a tunnel down here underneath if you go down in the basement. Chinatown. Something." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" So I went over there and they had stairs going down and I can't remember the name of the gift store for the life of me. Sorry about that. But it was roped off. So I went back to the front, the cashier, and I said, you say something over there about Chinatown downstairs. And it happened to be the new owner. And she said, yeah, we have the tunnels down there. You can go down and see it, but we haven't opened it yet. We're going to work on opening that. And she was nice enough to give me and my two kids a little advanced tour of this underground, the Chinatown stuff. And what it is this is what I learned. I'm trying to focus. Way back when. So at night, the Chinese people were not supposed to be out on the street running around. They to get from one place to another, they didn't want to see them on the street, unfortunately. So they built these, what I thought used to be underground tunnels. Turns out it's actually the first story of all these buildings, the ground floor. But due to flooding, where are you going? I understand. Due to flooding and all the debris that had flowed down the street, it buried the buildings up to the first level mostly. So they built the street up. And so what you see in Deadwood is a lot of times the second story at street level currently. But there's a whole first story that's underground now. And so back then they built the Chinese, and from Chinatown, they built all these underground, they dug it out and had these underground tunnels where they would be able to go up and down Main Street as they needed to at night via these tunnels. And you can go underground and see it all. And underneath this particular gift store, they had these really amazing things they still had from back then, where you could actually see the original boardwalk on the bottom, the first floor where it used to be, and they had dug out, and this is how they got around. So you can see that they're working on bringing this back. And I think I'm doing a really crappy job of telling you about it because I've drank way too much tequila from this mug that
it was about Christina twice as long as it needed to be.
You think so? You should probably edit me and help control that a little bit. Gosh, he comes and goes a lot, doesn't he? He's like beside me, a little thing in my ear, and then he's gone again. Let me see. Is the tattoo, Curse's tattoo, based on a real tattoo or just something you made up based loosely on a real tat? That's a really good question. Can we have some Jeopardy music as I think about the answer to that? No, we can't do that. That's probably copyrighted. Back in the original Deadwood series, the modern day one, I came up with that Curse's tattoo when it came to Prudence way back in book 2, I believe, of that series. And so I don't remember. Do you remember where that came from even? No, he doesn't. He's walking away. So I'm not sure where that came from. It was just an idea. I like the idea of the goat with the pig. So that was kind of the start of it. And then we were building this series of old, because if you go, when Doc goes into Prudence's head, he sees the Curse's tattoo. So we knew we had to incorporate that into the Undertaker series. And as we were plotting it, it became such a part of the story and the series. So it was, that's kind of how the Curse's, branding and all that came about. And then since then we've built it, talking a lot with my hands, so I'll try to. I think that's it for questions. I think I hope I answered most of them. If I didn't, you can email me privately and I'll try to answer. We are going to have another talk probably next month after the new book is released, book 3, which is called Can't Write Around It, which has Rabbit. I will say this, it has Rabbit on the cover. Book 1 had Clem on the cover. Book 2 had Boon on the cover. Book 3 has Rabbit on the cover. So I hope you'll enjoy Can't Write Around It and have fun with it. We had a great time writing it and so much fun with Rabbit. He's such a great character. He cracks us up. But that will be coming out soon, so stay tuned on Facebook, Instagram, and all the other places where I post for the cover. And then you'll know, again, you can pre-order it all over the place. Anyway, I feel like I just rattled off a bunch. Any other questions, feel free to write me privately. I try to respond when I can. And thank you all for coming and hanging out with me today. And I hope you had no problems finding this and the broadcast worked well. I'm trying new things all the time with you guys to see if it works. On Oh, let me do one more thing I want to tell you guys about. On September 22nd, I believe, and you'll see more about this. That's a Tuesday night. I think it's the 22nd. I don't have my book with me. Robin Peterman and I will be doing another, what is it? Shooting the Shit with Robin and Ann and Robin. So we'll be doing another one of these and just hanging out and chatting and having fun. And the whole point of that is just to get to have fun with us. This is what we do when we're hanging out together and chatting about books and life and whatnot. And so we thought it would be fun to just spend time with you guys as well, have you there with us, and you can ask questions and be part of it. So stay tuned for that. I wish I could tell you the time, but I can't remember. Stay tuned though. I will tell you the time. I will post about it and mark your calendars for Tuesday, September 22nd. I'm pretty sure that's right. But again, there's been a lot of tequila involved today. So thank you all for coming, and many thanks to Sam Lucky for coming and hanging out with me. Now I'm going to go see what he's doing. I think he's working. He's back to work. So write me and ask questions as you need, and I will talk to you all soon again. Thank you. Bye.